Howdy Stalkers, it's now been a couple of days since we learned of the upcoming Cost of Hope DLC for Stalker 2 set to release this summer, and in today's video I wanted to share with you all everything that we know so far and some hidden details that we might have missed. But before we dive on into everything, if you do enjoy today's video, consider dropping a like, a dislike if you don't, and consider subscribing. It would really help out the channel. Alrighty, let's get on into it. Starting off, and one of the first things we learned from the opening of the trailer is that Skiff will be returning for the upcoming DLC, so the speculation and theory surrounding the departure of Skiff and playing through the eyes of a new protagonist has now been clarified. However, that's not to say that once we learn more about the storyline closer near release, that a new protagonist could be introduced. It also appears, and according to GSC via Xbox Wire, the protagonist of the expansion is Skiff, and the events unfold in parallel with the story of Heart of Chernobyl. After installing the DLC during your playthrough of the main campaign, you'll receive a signal on your PDA that will start the expansion storyline. To also put this into perspective, development of the DLC started after the release of the main game, so this isn't just an add-on but a fully fledged continuation of the game's story. The DLC will be non-linear, dropping you into the long-time conflict between Judy and Freedom, enemies in the past but are now tied together by the D4 Treaty, a pact signed by every group in the zone before the events of Heart of Chernobyl. Judy are the ones who see the zone as a danger to humanity. Their goal is simple: destroy that danger and protect humankind from the unknown. Freedom see things a little bit differently. For them, the zone is a gift, something humanity should explore and learn to use for the greater good. According to the Xbox Wire article, just like in the vanilla game, your decisions will shape this chapter of the story, how it ends, the consequences for the zone, its inhabitants, and who knows, maybe even the entire world will be significant. We can also see confirmation of this via the Steam store page. The fragile peace between the bitter rivals is shattered. Pick a side in a tangled web of intrigue and half-truths where no choice is clean or truly right. We can see the return of Mavka, Voronin, Zulu, and other Judy and Freedom characters, who will play as a central role as you navigate your decisions and shape the future of the zone. Through the course of the story, Skiff will make his way for the first time, but familiar territory for us all, to two brand new and familiar regions. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant, which we can see from the trailer, what appears to be Skiff propelling down into what looks like the destroyed remains of Reactor 4, and battling several poltergeists inside of one of the reactor rooms. Just a small taste of what to expect while visiting the CNPP. The Iron Forest will also be a new location that we'll be visiting, but two locations that might seem small in comparison to other locations, these two locations are fully fledged regions, both with their own hubs and dozens of smaller areas to explore, filled with quests and activities. We can also see the return to S.T.A.L.K.E.R, but what was very eye-catching was the use of the underground systems, which appeared to lead to Limansk, a location which was heavily rumored to make a return with the upcoming expansion. In the trailer, we can see Skiff walking through a tunnel and then a hospital, but if you slow the footage down, you can see a sign on the right which translates into Limansk. In the original trilogy, Limansk was an area that was mainly reachable through specific routes and tunnels, and more than likely, a location which isn't confirmed for the DLC, but could be a location GSC is keeping under wraps until release, or we might only briefly visit this location through a quest and not have the option to fully explore it until future expansions. Moving further into some more hidden details that we might have missed, it appears that the character we see here during this encounter appears to be a previously cut character, the Kadaver mutant. Originally seen in the Heart of Chernobyl art book, we can see that GSC have been hinting the return of this character for a while. We can see hints of this in the video released by GSC for World Radio Day Beats, the helmet of the Kadaver sitting on the table behind one of the radios. We can also see hints to this in the game right now, where you can find the helmet lying on a desk located in the Duga region, which you can find through the Stories Untold questline when Banzai asks you to fetch him his tools so that he can upgrade materials at his station, a quest that you can find after the main events of Stories Untold. But what's interesting about this is the difference in what GSC envisioned for the character compared to what we see in the trailer, a helmet that, from what I'm guessing, is used to control the Kadaver. Even if you take a look at the art book description, it reads, the result of experiments geared towards a singular purpose, creating the perfect soldier. However, before the trailer wraps up, we also get a short glimpse of what appears to be the introduction of the Embryo, something we had heard to be rumored and teased to make an appearance at some point in the Stalker 2 storyline. Now, even though we know that the central theme of the story drops us into the quarrel between Judy and Freedom, the real question is that with the introduction of the Kadaver mutant, references to the Embryo and other zone experiments, who or what is behind all of this and how it ties all of the characters together. Lastly, and something I had missed from my original breakdown of the trailer, seen here and making a return is the Svarog Detector, a detector featured only in Stalker Call of Pripyat. What's interesting about this is that space anomalies or bubble anomalies can be destabilized by a Svarog detector, which emits a frequency that somehow interferes with it once the wielder is close enough, eventually causing the anomaly to explode and disappear, freeing anyone or anything trapped within it, which could indicate that we'll need to use this at some point to either get to some sort of location or possibly free a certain character from an anomaly. Moving on from that, and a lot of you who have watched the trailer probably noticed the introduction of some new weapons coming with this expansion, and from what appears to be some sort of rework done on attachments for certain weapons, possibly even opening up the attachment modification functionality for weapons across the board. We can see indications of weapons such as a modified variant of the G3 assault rifle, the HK433, and as mentioned in one of my previous videos, what appears to be the SKS rifle, all of which will be extremely welcome addition to the zone's arsenal. Personally, knowing the zone is expanding to new locations, some locations we've once visited in the past, seeing new and returning characters, and probably what will have a few people scratching their heads is how this story will affect the possible endings for the base game with Skiff. But regardless of that, it's really cool to see Skiff making return for this installment. What was also telling and what has a lot of us really excited is that from the footage showcased during the trailer, it indicates that this version of the game will be running on the Unreal Engine 5.5.4 update. From the lighting, the visual effects, everything seemed to be a step up from what we currently experience with the game at the moment. Some of the first person footage does appear to be running on this, but on the other hand, I could be wrong, as it could just be upscaled for the purpose of the trailer, but I assume we'll get more concrete info as we get closer to release. However, and in the meantime, and as mentioned in my last video, the next planned update, Update 1.9, should be launching very soon, possibly mid-April. Patch testing has been going on behind the scenes, and myself and others who have been testing this update are very excited to share what's in store, but do be prepared, this update might not be as big as previous updates. But definitely make sure to have that bell notification enabled for whenever my Update 1.9 review goes live on the channel. However, that's everything for today. As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions on what we discussed here today in the comments below. And if you're new here and you found today's video helpful and informative, consider giving the video a like and consider subscribing to the channel so you never miss out on future videos. As always, a big thank you to our channel members and subscribers for your continued support. It really means the world to me. If you didn't know, we're also sponsored by G Fuel, so if you'd like to save a little bit of cash on your next shipment, make sure to use code PENALPINEAPPLE at checkout to receive 30% off. Until next time, stay safe out there in the zone, welcome to Vault 93, and I'll catch you all in the next video.